The front door creaked open, a sound that had always been part of the comforting rhythm of our home. But tonight it felt different. Off, like a discordant note in a familiar melody. Sarah had come home later than usual, but that wasn't what unsettled me. It was her smile, radiant, almost dazzling in its warmth. It was the kind of smile she saved for special occasions, anniversaries, or the day we brought our puppy home. But this time, it felt forced, like a carefully placed mask that never quite reached her eyes. I sat at my desk in the study, the soft blue glow of my laptop illuminating the room. For the past 2 weeks, I had been planning, scripting, and building. This wasn't a decision made on impulse. It was the product of months of doubt and quiet observation, stolen glances at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking, late-night work calls, and the growing distance in her eyes whenever she looked at me. The suspicion had burned slowly, but now it had reached its breaking point. "Hey," she said, her voice unnaturally bright, with a forced cheerfulness that rang hollow. "How was your day?" I lifted my gaze from the screen, keeping my expression unreadable. "It was fine. Quiet. Yours?" She gave a small shrug, moving toward the kitchen. "Oh, the usual. Just a lot." Her voice trailed off as she busied herself, the clink of dishes and the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence of the house. A lot. A lot like the night spent somewhere else. With someone else. I pushed the thought down and steadied myself. This wouldn't be a loud confrontation. I had moved past anger and heartbreak. All that remained now was a cold, calculated certainty. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to accuse. I only needed her to understand the weight of what she had done. A few minutes later, she reappeared in the doorway, a glass of wine in hand. Her earlier bravado had faded, replaced with something more fragile. She looked cautious, like an animal sensing a trap, but not knowing where it was. "What are you working on?" she asked, her eyes flicking to my laptop screen. Her voice was casual, but I could hear the edge in it. The nervousness. The website on my screen looked unassuming, just a coding platform, something I had poured countless hours into. A project I had finally finished. "Just something I've been meaning to complete," I replied, letting the faintest trace of a smile touch my lips. She stepped closer, scanning the screen. I could feel her tension, thicken the air between us. "What is it exactly?" she asked, curiosity laced with unease. I pushed my chair back and stood. "It's easier if I show you." She flinched slightly as I placed a hand on her shoulder, her body stiff beneath my touch. I wondered what it felt like for her, if it seemed surreal, like watching a nightmare unfold in real time. "Just sit," I said, guiding her gently toward my chair. She hesitated but obeyed, her wide eyes locked onto mine, clouded with confusion and something close to fear. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small, unassuming USB drive. Weeks of careful planning condensed into a single device. When I plugged it in, the screen flickered, revealing a website that looked familiar in format but held something entirely unique. It was a meticulously compiled archive. A digital monument to her betrayal. A series of photos appeared first, grainy, distant shots, but unmistakable. Captured at a bar she had visited the night before under the pretense of a work event. Except she hadn't been working. She had been laughing, touching, and kissing another man. But the images were just the beginning. Beneath them lay a timeline, interactive and precise. Every phone call, every text, every late-night excuse cataloged in excruciating detail. The timestamps cross-referenced with her call logs and GPS history. Each entry annotated with the truth behind every lie. The first log was a brief phone call, seemingly harmless, a 2-minute conversation in the garage while I had been asleep. She had claimed it was about a client meeting, but I had included an audio recording from that same night. It wasn't business. It was her, whispering to him, excitement lacing her voice. I watched as her eyes darted across the screen, scanning the evidence. I saw the exact moment her face lost all color, the breath hitching in her throat. Frozen. Terrified. The confident, glowing woman who had walked through the door minutes ago was gone. In her place sat someone stripped bare, exposed in the harsh light of truth. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Finally, a whisper. How? How did you? I pointed at the screen. It's all there, Sarah. Every lie. Every betrayal. Every secret you thought you could keep. Her hand flew to her mouth as a choked sob escaped her. She wasn't just afraid. She was horrified. Because she wasn't the only one who could see it. The website wasn't private. Her friends, her family, her colleagues, they would all know. No, she gasped, her voice raw with desperation. No, you can't do this. Please, I'm begging you. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but I felt nothing. No sympathy. No anger. Just a quiet finality. She reached for the laptop, fingers shaking, trying to shut it down, trying to undo the damage. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I didn't mean to hurt you. It was just a mistake. A mistake. No, a mistake happens once. What she did was a series of choices, deliberate, calculated. The thing about mistakes, I said, stepping closer, meeting her gaze, is that they're not supposed to happen over and over again. I let the words settle before delivering the final blow. You didn't make a mistake, Sarah. You made a decision. And now, you get to live with the consequences. Without another word, I turned and walked away, leaving her behind, a shattered mess before the ruins of her own deception. I didn't need to look back. I packed my bag and left, my one-way ticket already booked. As the plane ascended, I gazed down at the city, the lights sprawling beneath me like distant stars. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was free. Sarah's hell was just beginning.